So today we're going to be talking about polygon modeling, which is just a more advanced form of what we have been doing so far, which was polygon modeling. So let's start as usual with a cube here. So far we have been using all the tools here in our disposal to create different shapes, mostly extruding different faces and creating different and interesting new forms. The way we've been working so far is pretty good if you're doing hard surface objects like we did, like a table, sword, and shield. But if you want to do anything more refined, anything organic, like a character, we need to use one more element. The principles will be the same, but we need to apply something more. And this is going to be subdivisions. We need to apply subdivisions to make anything that's super sharp in a more organic shape. So I have this cube here. Let me turn on wireframe on shaded. If I get this cube and I subdivide, I can subdivide here. The subdivide command in Maya is called smooth. If I click here, I get this little gizmo, and here I'm adding one division. So basically Maya gets one of the faces and divides divides its edge once. So one face becomes 4 faces, and it tries to average around, so it gets a little bit rounder, it gets smooth. Now it doesn't look that great, but let's take a look what happens if I increase the subdivision. Now 2 gets closer to a circle, and to the point when we reach 3 divisions, our cube pretty much became a sphere, very close to a sphere. So this is a very powerful way to create very simple shapes and then transform them in organic shapes. The problem is this is a definitive form. So if I go to my face mode, I cannot really change the simple form I had before, because now this is definitive. So we have to do something a little bit different. In most software, 3D software such as 3ds Max, Cinema 4D, or Blender, you would apply a subdivision modifier, then you could change the simple form below that modifier, and you would get the more smooth version. Maya works a little bit differently because Maya was made for character animation. It has a constant option for you to see a preview of the smooth command. So even without applying the permanent smooth command, in Maya you can access a preview of that all the time. So let's go here to object mode. If I press 3, I see a preview version of a applied smooth command with 2 subdivisions, and I can still access the simpler form. So I have this very like round object, but I still have only the faces of the cube, so I can still model this like it was a simple cube. And as I start working this, I can create some very interesting and organic shapes. Let me turn off my symmetry here so could go on and on. As you can see, very easy and simple way to create interesting organic shapes. But this is just a preview. If I press 1 again, I go back to my original low poly model. So keep in mind those 3 shortcuts. The mode 1 is the one that you're going to be using, where you actually see the real shape of the object. The number 3 gives you the smooth preview of the object. And if you press 2, you have a very interesting mode, which is the smooth preview, but you get the cage, the low poly cage around the object. This is also very powerful. So because you can still see the smooth preview, but you have a little bit more control because you see the actual low poly shape that you're manipulating, the shape that's actually creating the whole deformation here. We have different ways of working with this. Some people like to work actually in the mode 3 because it looks very organic. It looks more like you're playing with clay. The problem with working with this is that you can easily get into some situations where you're gonna have a weird you're gonna have some weird effect and you're not gonna be able to see it because you're in the mode 3. For example, if I'm here and maybe if I click and extrude and I offset this and then I can move this and then extrude again and then another extrude, and so far so good. It looks okay-ish. It doesn't look really bad. But if I go back here, you see I have like faces getting out of those faces and showing the back of the face, which is black. So we have like inverted faces. Even though in mode 3 it looks perfect, in mode 1 is actually not a good shape. We're gonna have a lot of problems working with Maya if we keep this shape here. So what we usually do professionally is to keep working on mode 1, so we can keep an eye on the proper topology of the object, and then we press 3 to see what is going on. So basically you're going to be modeling mostly in the low poly, and now and then you press 3 and you check how what is going to be the result that you're going to get with this smooth. Alternatively, you can work with number 2, which gives you kind of the best of both worlds. You're going to see this move, but you are going to be sure that you don't get a wrong topology. So before we start creating our first organic character, some extra points. Everything that I'm telling here about the three modes, the 1, 2, and 3, those modes are not universal. They are connected to the object, so you can actually have different objects in different modes at the same time. So let's create another cube so I can show you this. And okay, I have my cube here. Let's undo this. Let's go to my face mode and create more stuff here. And okay, so if I press 3, this object is gonna be on the smooth preview mode. This one is not. So if I wanna change this, I'll press 3 and now it is gonna be in the smooth preview. If I press 2, this one's gonna be with the cage and the smooth preview, and this one's not gonna be. This is like super powerful because you can have like you could be working in the low poly version while the environment and the rest is in the final form. The amount of subdivision you see in this preview is controlled by one node here. Let's go back to the object here and let's go to the attribute editor, and we have here the subdivisions level, the smooth mesh, and we have a smooth mesh preview enable. If you don't have this enable, it means we're not going to be seeing. The shortcuts, they affect this. So if I go to 1, this is going to be turned off. If I press 3, this is going to be on. If I press 2, this second mode is going to be on. But notice I can actually increase the preview division levels. By default, we are going to have 2. And if you want, you can actually show this subdivision. So if I click here, we get a preview of the extra faces that would be created in our final smooth. I don't recommend using this one. It's better to work with the simplified version here. And the default 2 subdivisions is pretty good for us for what I've been doing so far. So don't change this, but it's good to know that you can change if you need. Finally, after you create the character, the object, you have 2 options. If you're animating inside Maya, this is one of the advantage of using Maya for character animation. You can actually do everything, the rigging animation, with the low poly, and that will be much easier for the computer because you're gonna have to use less resources because of a much simpler form. And during the rendering, Maya will respect the preview, so you're gonna get the smooth version without having to actually make the subdivision permanent. But if you're creating a character or an object that you're gonna export, for example, to a game engine or to another software, maybe you're modeling and rigging Maya and then you're animating Cinema 4D or 3ds Max. In this case, you need to make the subdivision permanent. Then you did your work here. You would click the smooth, put like 2 divisions to get exactly like the preview. And now whatever you did here is going to be permanent. And as usual, you can see the history of everything you created here in the channel box, and you can delete the history before you export. So that's the basics of organic modeling. And now let's jump to our first character.